Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name's Obi-Wan Pez. This is N Simplex Pachinko, and we are doing some TTRPG planning for, well, this weekend and always. We're currently working on TitansGrave, the Ashes of Volcana. We're on planning session number 4, looking at working on player session. I don't even remember where we are now at this point, but my players have taken roads most definitely not traveled and not planned for, of course. Currently, right? This is the world we're looking at. Let me just see how 150 looks on the second screen. Yeah, that's actually better. Okay, so the TitansGrave module is a campaign setting in the techno-fantasy realm of Volcana. Here we have the map that was provided. This was a map drawn out by Andy Law, who is a TTRPG cartographer, so he's been known to do quite a lot of stuff. So so with the map provided, we have some interesting features of the world. We're mostly working in the Tasmetra Basin, which is going to be basically this area here. My party ended up starting at Terminal 2, which is a town, roughly speaking, right here. You can sort of see me pointing at it at the top of the arrows. So Terminal 2, I think the dot is right about here, is supposed to be the end of a... Actually, you know what? I don't think it gave us any information about Terminal 2, literally anywhere, except the name. So I made it the ending of a railway station, or railway, that went up into the North Country, which on this map is marked the Wastelands. Yeah. And I believe that I made the Cataclysm, the event that created the Wastelands as true wastelands, that there were other uses for the areas around it, and therefore, we're able to find some use to have some sort of railway that went up into the wastelands. Not super important. So, and those are my notes for a completely different TTRPG. But hey, I'm rewatching the TTRPG that rhymes with fast, because it is amazing and somebody has it. That one was written by Jackson Lansing, but TitansGrave has Jackson on as a writer for lead writer for one particular chapter that my party is just about to go to, and also I believe he was a co-writer for most of the rest of the book. So just to remind everybody, if you haven't been here before, or if it's been a little bit, we have Volcana, which is the entire world. Tasmetra, I made the main continent here. which spans, roughly speaking, 2,000 kilometers across and 2,000 kilometers north-south in this particular way. And then we also have the other continent. Uroja, or Uroja, which is going to be this secondary continent over here. It's going to be, I believe, main continent, so much larger. But I have no plans to send my party anywhere near here except for a couple of islands out this way, maybe onto this peninsula, and down to Obsidian Peak, which is in this area. I think that one maybe. Anyway. Alright, so again, alien race discovered Volcana. Basically, lifeless orb. They went and decided to terraform it, which ended up setting little nanomachines to a task of monitoring and terraforming the planet. This is very Arthur C. Clarke. And the machines, after completing their task, dismantled themselves into simple components, and Volcana has been continuing to evolve unassisted for the last 30,000 years. This is also going to be slightly Adrian Tchaikovsky, where in Children of Time there was a virus which was manufactured in order to assist and accelerate the process of attaining intelligent life on a particular planet. So it basically is a virus which artificially selects for intelligence. Tonight we are drinking the neighbor's old stock of sticky toffee pudding rum. They had open bottles and naturally could not take any of that back to the States with them, so, somebody's got to do it. All right. Prehistory, roughly speaking, 500 years before Solar Reckoning. Elves and Saurians were warring with each other for a long time, advancing their technology, and they discovered some other races which then became their servitors, the dwarves and the orcs, being fiefs to, or servitors of, the Saurian Empire. Dwarves were more machinists, orcs were main forces. Elves retreated back across the shattered channel to Uroyo, where they expanded and flourished, leaving the Saurians to conquer Tasmetra entirely, approximately 350 before Solar Reckoning. Orc slaves rebelled against the Saurian masters, starting a civil war that would last decades. Loyal dwarves conscripted to the front lines, taken out of machinist shops. Many of the great machines began to wear beyond the ability to fix them. Some Saurians were concerned that the war may have been about to turn in the orcs' favor when the cataclysm occurred. So what I am stating for the cataclysm is that some nanobots that were lost out in the this star system's equivalent to the Oort cloud, or maybe the Kuiper belt, were able to grab some objects that were left out there, started accumulating, and then were like, hey, here's a comet, let's bring that over. And brought that comet back down to Volcana, unfortunately striking the northern edge of Tasmetra about 200 years before Solar Reckoning. It obliterated nearly a third of the landmass, which now creates what we now know as Tasmetra. Creates the giant crater, which then lifts the divide and Krammen's chain, which was another series of mountains on the side. Ensuing volcanic activity across the region created Bleak Spur, Broken Spires, the Rift, the Castigaries, pulling apart the tectonic plates, which then volcanic activity creates some mountains, but at the same time there's like these deep rifts in the earth that are nowadays free of volcanic activity. We also list here the Green Ronin Fantasy Age Core Rulebook, which is that link now is second edition. So they changed enough stuff around. They added a brand new, they added an entire new class. So more or less, the way it's been working is that they tell you that you need to be one of 3 potential classes, and they are basically fighter, magic user, and rogue. So are you more developed toward the like strength or sneaky or magic, right? In intelligence, magic, that sort of stuff. So in second edition, they added the Envoy, who is much more of a communications heavy individual. Whatever you want to pick for your character can be flavored off of one of these things. So if you want to be a paladin type, like from D&D style, if you want to be a paladin, you can choose whether you want to more lean into the fighting aspect of being a paladin or the social aspect of being a paladin. You could, in fact, lean into the magic aspect of being a paladin. There really isn't a roguey paladin, but in theory, you could build one. But, like, how you choose your traits, characteristics, and talents is really what differentiates each individual character, much more than just their class. The classes provide class benefits and eventually have some sort of, like, they're essentially feats from D&D that are, like, class specific. Or no, it's class specific benefits. So it's like choosing a specialization in D&D. You basically start leaning one way or the other. And naturally, if you work with your GM, you could do practically anything. Alright, material from the comet is scattered across Volcana. The remaining nanobots protected from planetfall by either falling off the comet on a piece of small rock and ice that slowed dramatically, did not burn up on an atmospheric re-entry, or entry, burrowing deep within the comet to withstand the blast, scattering away from the main blast on different debris, or by constructing a rudimentary flying discus up in the upper atmosphere and gliding to safety. These 4 things have been, like 4 groups of nanobots, have formed some small amount of metal or semi-precious or semi-precious metal that offer good conductivity for electrical communication. Naturally, that is going to allow it to become a very rudimentary type computer. Only in this one, we've chosen more like what we're going to do is we're going to say that these nanobots are going to eventually develop some sort of magical connection to Valkana. And then due to that, it's going to like the nanobots are going to be of a more magical bend, whereas the wearers of the crowns themselves are much more of a technological bend. We'll see why in a bit. Endless night. People of Volcano were beset by famine and disease, lack of sunlight naturally. The Saurian Empire collapsed overnight, capital being in the north of Tesmetra. Many dwarves and saurians retreated to the safety of underground bunkers, developing over the centuries into cities in their own right. Elves on Udrya were not spared from the devastation. Many were forced to leave their sanctuaries, return to the nomadic lifestyle practice not seen for millennia. Orcs organized together fought survivors for dominance of Tasmetra, retaining control of the southern highlands and expanding as far as Varakis. After reaching the high water mark, the orcs began fighting amongst themselves, broken into tribal and regional factions, unable to sustain the cooperation that their empire required. Elves wandering Udrya discovered human beastfolk, and I've been told, maybe not beastfolk. Also, I believe that's actually the name that they use in the rule book, so it ought to be a little bit more consistent. So human, wildfolk, gnomish, halfling races began to create trade routes and discovered from these races the ability to manipulate unseen forces that defied scientific and rational study. These are magics. While the other races remained superstitious about magic, I guess, yeah. The elves sought to understand and control the mystical force as they would any mundane forces. Universities founded during the Endless Night, some dedicated to the study of. Other science, many attempt to marry the two. Finally, the sun emerged from through an area of clouds that had been thinning for a decade. The endless night ended. Zero solar reckoning. This led to unprecedented boost in the technological study for the elves and other continental races, leading to increased trade in Tasmetra, leading to greater cross-cultural connections between underground city dwellers, predominantly saurians and dwarves, and above-ground dwellers, predominantly saurians and orcs, and the continental races, which were well-mixed societies by this point. Right, some dedicated to the study of magic, which formalized into what we now know as Arcana. There are different schools of Arcana, and so that's going to be how we're going to justify why it switched its name. Alright, rebuilding. Universities developed small virtual intelligences, widened up creatures able to respond to simple commands at 100 solar reckoning. Over time, researchers melded Arcana and these intelligences, creating the Orion people in 130. Orions learned quickly about the nature of the world and their existence, demanding self-determination within a matter of months. Not needing standard resources, some Orions decided to create their own society in the wastelands, beginning to transform it into a place that people from all races could live. They replicated quickly, but had optimally sized city-states for their populations. Naturally, of course. Welcoming and naive, as my player has described his character so many times, the Orions allowed citizens from all over Valkana to share in their efforts to terraform the wastelands and in their profits from computer components made in their cities about 180 solar reckoning. though the food was still somewhat nutrient poor. Terraforming and genetic engineering projects centered in the laboratory. It is known as the Old Laboratory on the map. Made strides to enrich the soils with appropriate nutrients to sustain all local life forms. Cool. Authoritarianism? What? Okay, group of Saurian supremacists captured Orions, performed experiments on them to determine the nature of their existence and how to offline them all at the same time, should the need arise. Near to 400 Solar Reckoning, a group of Saurian scientists in the Intelligence Directorate discovered the nanobot contaminated metals at Hallock Station. They discovered the nanobots through a combination of electron microscopy and identify enchantment, using the two in concert to boost one another. The nanobots, through millennia of sentience, developed the magical ability of mind reading. The nanobots convinced a researcher to construct a circlet, ostensibly to be able to study them better. The circlet was then delivered to a captured Orion who held a grudge against the researchers for capturing them. Over a short few days, they surreptitiously plotted to escape and ran hundreds of simulations to find the optimal timing and method. The joined entity convinced multiple researchers and security guards to help them, slowly altering their moods toward aggression, sowing the seeds of discord among the teams. One day they made their escape toward the Jagged Isles, getting guards and scientists to join their escape plan until they got a boat to the mainland and an airship to Amstrun. This group overwhelmed the guard forces at the laboratory, having heard faint communications from other colonies of nanobots on comet material, constructed another circlet, found another Orion, this one a genetic researcher. The two entities operated in secret, scouring Tresmetra for the remnants of the nanobot colonies. Eventually they were found off the coast of the Meriden Isles and at the top of Obsidian Peak inside of a cave. Circlets were forged, compatible Orion hosts were found with amenable negative personality traits, and they began plotting to take over Tresmetra. Ideal series of events was worked out in a 4-week cycle. Wasteland would enter a region. Let's see. I worked out what their designations should be. And actually, right? I still got Nerduino's channel up. Oops. I'm sure it's fine. Okay, so tab 1 Should really be like history. And, well, setting and history. I want a new document tab. No, that's not what I wanted. Not duplicate. This one. Orions. Okay. Left margin. Good. Okay. Laura 11. All right, so with this, we've got the Orions. I want to specifically talk first about detailed history, but I'm not going to do that right now. There's too much. Companies. You know what? We're going to do companies first here, just to say like who the players are in creating their Orions, their designations, and then detailed history at the end of it. Important Orions to the story. Add a personal dictionary. Take that. What's this? Title. Title. Laura 26. Awesome. Center. And return this back to where it was. Okay, then heading 4 is what I usually do for this stuff. Cool. Oi. No, hang on a sec. Heading 4. Oh. Okay, hang on. Save as my default styles. And move over here. Heading 4 should be here, you jerks. Alright, use my default styles. There we go. You did not do that. Why did you not do that? That's terrible. Why didn't you do my thing? No, I did not want you to do aerial. Bullshit. Come on. Ugh, gross. Okay. Okay, this is normal text. Okay, normal text match. Okay. It's awful. I don't like it. Gray. Lower 12. Gray. Lower 12. Take this as heading. You know what? Subtitle is fine. Update subtitle match. I want this to be subtitle. Apply. Cool. Okay. Okay. Autonomous mechanics, AM. Binary integrated, or BI. Modified allele, MA. Sequencing, united, SU. And toroidal transformer, TT. Designations of oriens will be of the form name dash company abbreviation dash function. Player in my game came I designated a player character bigs be discrete. To refer to an orien bigs of binary integrated whose job was a discrete, like doing counting type stuff, but I don't want to make it too stupid. This was so designated after. The character creation. When the player approached the table with an Orion named Bixby. With a CRT monitor for a head. I realized that the player who found and fixed him could have seen BI replaced unknown portions with variables x and y. BI x b y CRT. Stylized to eggs be discrete. All of this post-hoc rationalization made the process much more fun. I have to tell you, it was hilarious coming up with that. Even just this week was actually it was last week over vacation. I was like, oh my god, I could just replace, like I was trying to figure out how to make all of the like short names for the Orions of note in this campaign, i.e. the Four Horsemen. Binary integrated origin. as a discrete logical processor. So I had not even really thought about it, but the name itself, Bixby, like lends itself to, as I was also working with these other names that I was trying to fit. Again, the four horsemen of the apocalypse being war, famine. Hey, famished, how's it going? War, famine, pestilence, and death. I was like, how could I alter their names so that they show up later on and are like, oh, this is obvious. Spicy ramen with chicken, very nice. I'm sorry you have a cold, though. Last couple of nights we made some stir-fry type stuff. And I've been trying to get rid of this stuff for a while, so I had some chicken from the local butcher shop that I was like, I don't know how long this is going to last, but quite frankly, it usually lasts a lot less time than the stuff from the grocery store, so let's get that going. And then I remembered that I had baby corn, water chestnut, and my kids had brought over some potatoes that they had just found in our garden box that's about yay big. And I cooked them up the night before and put them in the fridge. So then I was like, well, I can just put them in this thing now. Or what was left anyway. Because the night before we had some of them as just baked potatoes. They're only that big. So I mean, it's not like it's, the biggest one we had I think was like that. Cooked potato in the microwave? Yeah. You do have to run the microwave for I don't know, 10 minutes or something, and it maybe not quite that long, but it does tend to wear your microwave out a lot faster if you do it often. So yeah, this character came to me as Bixby, Bixby. And like I said, this was in December, October. I can't even remember when I started playing this one or running this one. But yeah, player approached the table with this Orion named Bixby with a CRT monitor for a head, and then I was like, wait. If I name him Biggs and have this B in the middle and then discrete can be referring to this CRT, the cathode ray tube, big giant monitors and stuff like that. Explains the potato button. What? Oh, on the microwave. Yeah. Phew. And then this weekend, or this past week on vacation, I was like, wait. The X could refer to the variable which replaces a bunch of stuff that you can't see anymore. So I was like, this stuff right here, that's all just X. And then all of this stuff here, that's just Y, right? And the other character that found him and fixed him is also a really smart character. So, of course, they'd know algebra or whatever. So they just replace it and be like, huh, that's kind of cute. And then be like, wait, that's a name. I could use that name. So, important orients to the story. I decided that we were going to have Waylon rational. That's quite literally war. Oh, and I want the like scratched out version of their name as well. I gave it to my other character. Now I don't remember what I gave them. RTML. Might have done that. Let's see. Bum. All right. Falu ma nuclease. CLS. Oh. Okay, so the important origins to the story. Weylin, rational, RTNL, when censored in a little slightly different way, ends up with war, right? So just literally a W, an A, and an R. And this particular Orion, like, just kind of latched onto the idea. His designation ending is rational, RTNL, which then refers to being a discrete. Nope, sorry, that's Bigsby. Rational being like computation. So just essentially being a computer that is a computer that kind of realizes its usefulness or something like that. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Next one, Falu Ma NCLS, being nuclease, is a enzyme which does something to the nucleus of a cell. Yep. Biochemistry, nuclease is an enzyme capable of cleaving the phosphodiester bonds that link nucleotides together to form nucleic acids. So, in living organisms, they are essential machinery that for many aspects of DNA repair. Also extensively used in molecular cloning. So the idea that I've got is essentially that nuclease here is was created at Falu. Falu here was created at a laboratory doing genetic modification of crops. And so famine, it turns on its creators and ends up trying to break everything instead of helping. Under, of course, the direction of the magical crowns. Then we have Penny Sue telomerase. Telomerase is like the enzyme which helps the telomeres, the very ends of a chromosome. And I'm not sure exactly. It's probably gonna like help to break it down or to like make it. I'm not sure exactly what, but the idea here being, I want this to be a genetic modification of the people of Valkana. So this was a different laboratory whose job essentially was genetic modification of humans, or well, not humans, but all of the people of Valkana, to work on genetic modification and trying to like eliminate disease and stuff like that, which again, ironically, then Penny Sue turns on the makers and starts making diseases. And then Denny TT Harvester, or Harvest, being censored in that particular way, ends up being death. And what better way to, despite being a harvester, if it kind of loses its mind a little bit and it's holding a scythe, what better way to go out there and turn on its masters than to become death itself. Okay, then we're going to do tab 3. This is going to be crowns. All right, the crowns themselves are stylized after. Ooh, don't do that. No. The crowns themselves how did I do this on the other one? Basic information first, then move to the detailed history. So like what's our basic information for the crowns? Origin, no. Names and appearances. Effects. Subtitle. Nope. Subtitle. Not the big giant one. And this is going to be the horrible thing about these guys, is that they will have hidden effects, which are going to potentially ruin my party. All right, we're about to go on an ad break with that cliffhanger. See you in 3 minutes. Be right back, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Righto, welcome back. So, this is where we get into the fun stuff. So, there... Totally forgot. I need to plug this in. Yep. Okay. Now we don't need to do that. Ooh, let's see. We've got potentially citrine, tiger's eye. Naturally, that's pretty good. Okay. Decent choices. So we got like chalcedony and brown agate here. No, I mean, this doesn't have to be like this specifically. It could be any pattern really. Bronzite I do like. Member of the pyroxene mineral family. Just won't touch anything. Hopefully it'll... Alright, you know what? I like bronzite well enough. Do Circlet of Wilting. Pestilence is Penny Sue, so we'll make that Diadem. And then we'll also pick a greenish type gemstone, which is like our green meteorite type stone, maybe? Moldavite. That could be fun. Yeah. This is going to be placeholder. Green. Moldavite. Chondrite is the most abundant mineral. No, other way. H. chondrite. Most common type of meteorite. Okay. Most abundant minerals are bronzite and olivine. Okay. So I could do either of those. So bronzite or olivine. Right, and then black. Tektite. I really like this one right here. Campo de Cielo. The look of it, right, would be absolutely impossible to like get it to it would be absolutely impossible to like hammer this out into this shape. You know, iron, true iron, would just be too flat or too, like, if you tried to hammer it out, you'd see, like, the dents in it and stuff like that. It just would not work. So this one, I think, this sort of stuff would look really cool as, like, if it were made into a crown. Would be absolutely bonkers. Rigmaglyphs. The math is out mathing you. Oh no. What's going on? Yeah, applications are usually pretty hard to work with. But synonym. Laurel. There we go. Laurel of unlife. Okay. You're going to really love this one. regmaglyphs, also known as thumbprints. Okay. Yeah, okay. I think I've got the TitansGrave bestiary open somewhere. Nope. Not TitansGrave. Fantasy Age Bestiary. There we go. Did I put the bestiary in here? Not really. Okay. So we're going to add... Is this just text? I think it's just text. So we go to text superscript. Oh, no, it's not part of that. Why is this one not doing that? Is it a footer? Is that why? No. Oh, insert footnote. Yeah, there we go. How is it? And then it doesn't look any different than the rest of the text in terms of that thing. Yep. Okay. So Fantasy Age Bestiary is here. Oh, that's a still interesting. If anyone is interested, the sale ends in 21 days, 8 hours. It is currently 9 GBP. Oh, it's out of stock though. Oh, Oh, Bestiary PDF is now only 5 GBP. Yeah, so it appears that TitansGrave is going to be sold out permanently from the Green Ronin online store. I think possibly because, um, they ran out of their run, and it's been 12 years. So, oh wow, yeah, it's not even here. Anyway, it's not here. It's got to be downstairs. Unless I dropped it on the floor somewhere in here, which I don't think I did. It is most likely going to be downstairs. Put in yet another pile of my stuff somewhere. So. Okay, so here is the bestiary that we're using. Eldritch Crown, page 44. That is not what I wanted. Jeez. Ugh. Oh, gross. Close enough. All right, here we go. So this is the Eldritch Crown. It basically, in terms of like what it is a sentient crown, which then digs into the person's brain and eventually becomes a puppet master for them. The way that I'm going to be doing it here is that they're not literally just, at least, going to be like digging into someone's brain. They have worked their way into the processing of the Orions that they are now controlling. However, the Orions themselves are not like they're not oblivious. They're willing partners to this. War specifically, as I said in like the earlier sections, war is like super petty and also really pissed off at the Saurians who experimented on him. Granted, this is like 700 years ago now, but nonetheless. Oh no, actually, it's way after that. Where are we? When are we? Endless Night. Right, 180. Near 400. Mm-hmm. And I think we're at 2,500 now. Not Korean. No. I already did this. Add a personal dictionary. Okay. So the modern. Bestiary. Copyright 2016. Green Ronin Publishing. Fantasy Age Bestiary. Cool. Right? Yeah. Cool. Okay. Nope. Okay. This stuff needs to be cut. I was supposed to include you as well. Harumph. That's fine. No, we don't want that. Not there. There. There we go. Setting in history document ought to take this thing, cut it, and put it into the TitansGrave story. I guess at some point it's also going to be in the setting in history thing, but we will... Nope. Gross. Come on. Okay, so let's take this. First of all, let's center it. Come on now. Image options? Yeah. Position. Fixed position on page. Top center. And ignore... ignore margin. Stop doing that. You jerks. Alright, fit to page. Nope. Size and rotation. Ooh. 8.5 width. Pretty good. Break text, put it underneath, right? Looks pretty good. Now it's off the page up to the top. Cool. All right, that's good. insert page before. No. That's fine. Alright, okay, so back to TitansGrave. They make it, excuse me, to Nestora for chapter 5. Okay, so then we're also going to want to put another page break in, insert another page break. And then chapter 5 is we're going to want it here. Subtitle. I never want Arial. I don't know why you think that I ever would want it. Why is this not in alphabetical order? Okay, cool. I don't know. Oh my god, why? Okay. Take this and update. Make it that. Okay. Uh-oh. Yeah, there we go. Okay, nope. Why is it moving? I don't understand. I don't want it to move. I don't understand. Why is it moving? No, no. Probably close enough. Okay. No, but when I hit enter, you're supposed to turn the. Oh my god. Why is this hard? Oh, there we go. Normal text. Cool. Okay, so here we say that this is going to be the outline, right? Yeah. This also is going to drop back 0.19. Why? But why? ¿Por qué? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Chapter elements. So the things that are going to happen. Alright, so the chapter elements that we're going to have in the entering Stora, and you know what, I probably don't even want to do this. I probably just want to go all the way to the top and start entering in like chapter names and things like that, and then worry about the rest of that later. Maybe do what, you know, my title actually says, and look at the story beats of this game actually. Okay, so first of all, if we go with title Laura 26, cool. That is going to be title update. Really? Gross. Subtitle. But why? Just normal. I don't understand. Gross. Chapter overview. So, chapter 1 is no. We need prologue. Now, I started my adventure in Terminal 2, but anybody can do that anywhere. Chapter 1. It's going to be Humble Beginnings. Chapter 2. Okay, so interesting. So the book has different numbering system. Cool. Yes. This is something that we do not have in the actual book. That's the problem. Okay. All right, so what did I say? Outline chapter elements. Are in literally everything. Okay. And thank you for the follow, Famished. 1 year and 4 months ago, or almost 5 months ago. Whoop, whoop. Right, so the prologue from Terminal 2, the like creation of all of the individual locations in the city. I don't know if you can actually see it, but like I've written down basically what all of these places are and which what is it? Which guilds are in charge of which quarters? Uh, some of the sectors of the city are named specific things, which like I came up with. It's not a big deal, but you know that's the sort of thing that you would want to do with your game if you're going to run any game. It doesn't matter what it is, but start populating the world with some things that you might find interesting or you think, oh, this is where this thing belongs. I'll be back in 3 minutes. It's ad break thingy. So, see you in just a little bit. Ooh, Stooky's doing The Number Devil, a mathematical adventure. Right. I got my mice next to each other now, and it's really messing with my head. Okay, chapter 6 is actually this chapter 6, I believe. Hey, yep. Um, hmm. So, chapter 12 is going to probably um, I don't know what else to do exactly beyond this because I think laboratory testing probably should be back here. And then beyond chaos. No, no. That's the whole point of doing that in the first place. Oh. No. I really hate it when it does this. There we go. Hmm. Chapter 4 and then a start. There we go. What? Really? Okay, apologies. Hmm. Polite. Yeah. So really, I had everybody in the adventure decide where their loyalty lay. So are their characters gang members, or are they like mercenaries tasked with protecting goods in like a gang warehouse, or are they mercenaries who are working for the police? Because this is also another option that I asked all of them. Or do you want to have your characters work for the police, like be actual police officers? So I had 5 people at the table. Um, One said that he was affiliated with the gang, but there for protection. One said that he was a mercenary hired to work for the gang. Two said that they were police and like actually worked for the police. And then the fifth said that she would basically just be hard up for cash, need a job, and go work for the gang in order to get some money. So her character is basically just like hauling goods into a truck. That's it. And she's getting a few silver a day basically. In this world, a normal day's wage is usually like 5 gold for like average to high level. And the ratios are all 10 to 1 for copper, silver, gold. So she was being, quite underpaid, but nonetheless. This is also one thing that becomes rather hard. It's like, how much money are you giving out for all the individual like things that are going on? I know it became a joke for Will whenever he was running his game. It was like, well, 5 gold? Okay, great. 5 gold, like, each of us? 5 gold for one? Like, what are we doing? How much are we actually getting? So it became a bit difficult to look at it and be like, oh yeah, you guys are getting like this amount of gold, and they'd be like, I mean, Composure, welcome, and thank you for the follow. Yes, I am a math teacher, have been for, roughly speaking, 17 years. Um, did community college for 15 of those, and a little bit of some other stuff before that. And oh man, it's been basically 20 years. Got my master's in applied and computational mathematics, and then worked at the community college for 15 years. So it was quite nice. Worked in the United States. For the last 2 years, I have been in the UK with my family, and we're hanging out, having a lovely time. Way up in North Yorkshire. Um, I did work in 2 high schools, each for, well, I worked at one high school for the last quarter of a year. They had fired somebody at midterm, or at midway through the entire year, and then like we're scrambling to find somebody to fill the spot, and I picked up a sub job as like the CAD instructor, and I didn't know what I was doing. It was like whatever, and they were just like, basically we just need a warm body. They already know what like project they're working on and all that stuff. So I was like overseeing this project, and then I said, you know what, I'm gonna go eat lunch with the math people. And I went up there and started talking. They're like, who are you? Why are you here? And I was like, well, I'm filling in, tech. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. So what's your background? And I was like, well, I got my degree in math education. And like, the department chair just about had a heart attack, and she was like, you have a degree in math education? You're coming with me. And we talked with the vice principal, who used to be a math teacher, and she was like, you need to hire him now. I was like, when can you do your interview? I'm like, he's like, tomorrow? I'm like, great. Sounds perfect. So I worked from St. Patrick's Day up until the end of the year, at which point I was told that they were losing 3 positions. And you know who's first out the door? It's the last person in, and clearly there was nobody after me. So I lost that one, and then I went to a job fair for one of the other counties, probably the week before school, or really the week before staff orientation, and then I got picked up there to work around the northeast side of Baltimore. So if you've ever been to Baltimore City or Baltimore County, it's a unique place. It's all right. The kids were definitely not interested in learning, and I was just like, this is not a good environment. It was okay. It definitely taught me a lot, but by the end of the year, I was like, I'm just about done. And then the department chair was trying to get me to like, change the way I do stuff more to like, you should do this entrance ticket followed by, like activity after activity after activity, followed by an exit ticket, and then you could see exactly what's going on, and then you have all these grades, and I'm just like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to teach. I want to teach the students, And I mean, she was like, well, what do you think we're doing? And I'm like, it's just, I feel like you're having me, jump up here like a dancing monkey and like do this whole song and dance that is both unnecessary and just not fun and a lot of work that I don't have time for. And at the end of the year, it was just like, yeah, we're not going to renew your contract. I'm like, good, I don't want to come back. So I took my the exact same like teaching style that I had. I went to the community college and did a lesson for them, like a mock lesson with them as students, and they were like, "Wow, this is really great!" Like, and I'm just sitting there going, "I mean, clearly this is where I belong." After 15 years of working at the community college, I also found a really good, 13 years. I found a really good teaching model, and I've been talking about it ever since. Um, so this is from Peter Liljedahl, who is a Canadian researcher and math teacher. It is called Building Thinking Classrooms. This is modifying your thinking classrooms, which is pretty much, pretty much the same thing. The big book is about that big, and it's orange, very orange. I really liked the way that he was describing how to do this. I liked the activities that he came up with. I liked the fact that it was, research based and not just like, here, you should try these 20 things. It's like, vibes based research doesn't really work for me. So, Peter's was very much like data driven, and he had the data to back it up. And a lot of people are like, well, it's not hard numbers. It doesn't have to be super hard numbers. Like, what did you do? We did this thing. What was the effect? Well, we had this end up happening. And when we tried to like add in these other teaching things that we were doing, right? We've got these different teaching practices. When we try to combine them, here were the problems we had, and here's why we had those problems. And like based on some other research or other stuff that like, people had suggested, Martin Gardner suggested in the 1970s this thing. And oh, thank you. Martin Gardner suggested this particular teaching practice in the 1970s. And if we go with this, and then we combine it with this other thing, how can we then work them together to make a better classroom overall? And so a lot of it is not like very specifically data driven, but there are certain things that are in those books that say like, here's the data we actually took. When we tried this particular teaching practice, it took the students X number of minutes to just put the pen to the paper and start writing. It took X number of minutes for them to like come together as a group and start discussing math, not just like, go off and talk about whatever, the social lives or whatever. Could I tell if any of the students were high, or did I never really care? So yeah, there were definitely a few who were most definitely high when they came to class. But when it's in the high school, it was like you just report them, and then the principal or the resource officer would come to the room and be like, "You're coming with me." And it was always like, you must do this. I didn't really like it all that much doing that, but when I got to the community college, it was like, I really don't care. I didn't say that out loud, but like any of the ones who were, it was basically like, are you being disruptive? If they're not being disruptive, like, I don't care. You could do what you want here in this particular thing, and I will talk to you when you're not high and say, hey, so like, what's your goal? We can have a discussion about this, but not right now. Next question. Have I ever put anything in outline? Like, I think the point was just that it is the outline. And then we move on to, here's the chapter events. Yeah. No, that's it. Cool, cool, cool. Meh. This is a fun one. So, each team is briefed separately. So I made separate WhatsApp groups and was just like, okay, all of the people who are on, you know, as like a Terminal 2 gang, Terminal 2 police, and then the one character who was none of the above, who was just like a dock worker, basically. I just chatted her directly and was like, hey, so you're just kind of on your way to work? It was basically a continuation of the rest of the like initial discussion about who her character was. So there really wasn't anything to it. Okay. So we got about 3 minutes until ads. So the prologue is going to work that we have the prep stuff beforehand. We're going to create the characters first of all. Right, character creation, obviously. Right, so are they part of the gang, or are they part of the police? Are they mercenaries who work for one or the other, or are they just workers? So, brief each of the teams separately, the gang members, the workers, and the police. Right, then we do the pre-game briefings with all that stuff. Characters in the warehouse will choose where to work, and then we have the breach, where the police will break in. Break all the doors down with their, essentially, SWAT teams, and then the battle ensues. Discovery, then there's cleanup when that's all done. When the battle actually happens, everybody's really clunky and doesn't know how their characters work, but that's cool. Cleanup, they will be able to collect evidence, and then discovery is the realization that hang on. There's also a hostage situation upstairs. Cleanup, they take evidence and all this stuff, and then discovery, they realize that the stuff that's being shipped is not just drugs or electronics or computer parts. Oh no, there are also weapons in here. So that's the big reveal from this, is that there are also weapons. Everybody goes back to the police station. There is an interrogation scene if the police are interested, and then we have reversal of fortune, which we will talk about once the ads are done. So be back in 3 minutes. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming, and we'll see you in just a bit. Okay. What's going on there? Okay, so we start in the warehouse. The Red Hand Gang, it has been operating in Terminal 2 for some time. Moving goods illegally. Around the continent. They exist mostly in the east of Mistora. Nope. Tasmatra. Alright, they're going to extort the vulnerable with brutal efficiency. No qualms of harming those who resist. So the Red Hand often takes their name a little bit literally and will use physical violence very easily and without any sort of hesitation. The police have police have flipped a low-level foot soldier into turning state's evidence. against the red hand. They gave this location as a okay, gave this location as a red hand warehouse wherein something big was coming through. They know about well, they don't know. Don't have specifics, but the intel gathered shows red hand hmm. Right, trucks coming full, leaving empty, or vice versa, by weight sensors that were covertly placed around the location. Let's see. Known red hand gang members coming and going all day. Alright, breach teams will hit the doors marked on the map and come in, moving to cover. Map given to the police team for intel will be different than the actual map that's given. So this is going to be rather interesting. Obviously, things have been moving around. Things have been moved around or packed in trucks or opened up or whatever. So, you know, they intel changes, and the players have to deal with that. So, um, um, Right, so we attain level 2 through discussion. We're just talking about how the characters relate to each other, not so much not so much like having a real encounter, quote unquote. So after the first encounter where they do all of that stuff with the attack on Terminal 2, then as a party they need to come together, especially in like my case where I had 2 people from the police, 2 people from the gang, and 1 person who was basically, I mean, she was a worker there, so it was kind of like, well, I'm not part of either of you, like, what's going on here? So we had to get all of them to be like, all right, how do we make a cohesive group? And one of the things that's here is like, okay, look, you have spent a month getting to know each other and having to trust each other. How do you do that? And then like try to get story elements out of each individual person as best you can. There are some essential questions and some optional questions. In my case, none of them really worked all that well for my party. They were all kind of like, I think most of that problem was not wanting to or not being able to just come up with something on the fly, which is something that like improv actors don't have a problem with, so that's why it works so well for the TitansGrave sessions that Will Wheaton ran. Of course it's going to go well, right? Will's awesome. All the people he was playing with are awesome, and most of them are improv actors, so they can come up with stuff real quick on the fly. I'm terrible at it. I'm getting better because I've had to put up with the absolute nonsense that my party has put me through, but so the important part is that here all the characters develop some sort of relationship with each other, be it a good relationship or a bad relationship. In our party, we have, or had at the time, it really hasn't changed all that much, a human, an orc, a gnome, and a wild folk. Cat, specifically. So then, we said, what are some of the issues that are going on? And our orc said that he was like, essentially, I absolutely hate saurians because they enslave my people. Granted, it was like, several hundred to 1,000 years ago at this point. But, okay, you're carrying that grudge. Cool. So, good news, we don't have anybody on the team who is Saurian. But then, we're going to encounter a lot of people who are Saurian along the way. And in that way, one of my goals was to be like, okay, you're going to confront this. You're going to confront your racism at some point. One of the big issues is that, like, there are still Saurian supremacists just around, so you're going to run into a few of them. But at the same time, like, I'm not intentionally running into them at every turn. And he met a, like, sweet old man Saurian who was an armorer working in a blacksmith shop, and he was like super sweet to the guy. And I was just kind of like, all right. And I didn't know if it was specifically like, the orc gets the feeling that this guy has something I want and something I need, so I'm going to treat him right. But it was an interesting kind of compromise in terms of what the character's doing and uh, what the player realized in the moment needed to happen. So, kind of fun. So the prologue in TitansGrave is actually yay long. And it's basically, you're going to ask all these questions of the characters, they're going to develop relationships with each other, and then the prologue is you're reading this stuff, and then going to the Pegasus Roadhouse. So I have called this Rising from the Ashes for two reasons. Mainly the subtitle of the game, The Ashes of Volcana, but also the fact that I renamed, maybe by accident, the Roadhouse from the Pegasus Roadhouse to the Phoenix Roadhouse. So I thought it would be a good way to make it work. And then also it means that there is more opportunity for, like, this place was once, some other kind of restaurant or bar or whatever, and then through the years it ended up dying at some point, and now it's rising from the ashes. It's a phoenix. Pegasus has been in continuous operation for like 300 years, and then they had a gap where no one took it over and it kind of languished, and then this guy and his wife came around and raised it out of the earth, that sort of thing. Decided that they were going to be the ones, after 50 years of disrepair, to come here and be the people who were in charge, that sort of thing. So this actually became a theme um, in my game, is that they've had more and more true versions of the story of Lady Vadia and the Warlord as time has gone on. And so, like, they hear this sort of drunken karaoke version in the Phoenix, where they go and they talk about, with people who are there, um, about what the history is. And then much later, they're going to come across or they did come across a group of students who discussed with one of the party members about what, Lady Vadia and the Warlord were really about. But it's sort of one of them, I made one of them a history student. And so it was like, here, we're doing a lore dump because you didn't go to this other place that you were supposed to go to. They were supposed to go to a parade. And the idea is that they went to the parade and they had like they had the Nestora-centric version of this particular story, where the people who liberated Nestora are being celebrated much more than they probably should. And then later on, they're actually going to get essentially source documents where it's going to describe Lady Vadia's feelings about this, and then the Warlord's feelings about this. They're going to come across, specifically Lady Vadia's descendant, who is the new guy. She's an elf, so is going to wait, hang on. Is she actually the one, or is it her sister? It was her sister. Yeah. So her sister, whom I have made Liesel Reed, that she's in here later. So I've made her like the focus of a bit of the story, being like, okay, they need to specifically yeah, so they're going to get like the other person's feelings about the interaction, and then they're eventually going to get like visions of the actual interaction of Lady Vadia and the Warlord, what really happened from their perspectives. And it's going to be like, actual visions of it. Of course, this can be slightly fever dream, so they don't know if it's real or not, but, they're going to see visions of these people, and, they're actually going to go in and say, acknowledge that they are this person's ancestor, and, specifically, explicitly call them out, and give them words of hope, that sort of thing. All right. We'll call that good right there for now. We'll be back next Thursday and play around with some more stuff and expand this more and figure out other stuff. But for now, we're going to go see one of our friends. Let's go see Balint over at Science Streams. A friend from the TKF, or the Knowledge Fellowship, who does all sorts of cool stuff. He and his spouse are entomologists who both got their PhDs and study ants. So we'll see you all over there, and hope to see you all tomorrow. We'll do some more game type stuff. We'll figure out exactly what kind of game we want to play, and then have a good time. So see you then. Hope you have a good night. My name is Obi-Wan Pez. This is N Simplex Pachenko. Have a good one.